Welcome. I'm Jessica Tietjen, and this is the Evolving to Exceptional podcast, where we talk about reaching peak performance in our workplaces, homes, and communities so that we can live our best life possible, an exceptional life. You said we're all so busy, and what popped into my mind was we're all so busy, but are we really wisely productive? Are we really making good decisions that actually move the things that we want to move forward in our lives, either our businesses or our lives at large, move forward in meaningful and impactful ways? And we all know we've all had the day where we got through a lot of emails, we clicked them off our list. We didn't really actually accomplish anything of substance, anything that was really going to make an impact or really going to make a difference. And we can get caught up in the doing and not the gaining of perspective. And then as you talked about training different people and relinquishing control, one of my beliefs is that actually we need more people trained, at least at a basic level, so that anyone can partner with anyone else. Anyone can be a mirror, can be a support, can partner around performance and offer that support in the moment. And certainly leaders have to be okay with that and recognize that they actually can't be in all of those moments. It's a physical impossibility. And the more people we have equipped with those skills, the better the outcomes are going to be. And so, but very few organizations actually train all their people on how to have really good conversations or how to support one another around development or how to give and receive really good feedback. Those are things that are reserved for leaders. And so then everyone else is left fumbling. And that's actually the bulk of our interactions, right? The bulk of our interactions are with, our peers, our clients, our spouses, our families, like the people that we interact with. We maybe check in with our leader or manager, like if we're lucky, maybe once a week, maybe a little bit more, but a lot of times a whole lot less, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think gone are the days that we can assume that people know how to connect and talk to people. We're in a technology age where meaningful conversations happen via text. And so, the investment has to be there because if we want to continue to grow and we want to continue to evolve, we have to focus on people. We really do.
When you think about those conversations and those opportunities, whether it is leaders or someone else, what is really important about them to help people to build that capacity, to help people to build that growth or to experience that growth rather than have it be just a complaining session or a venting session?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the leadership teams, I think it's providing them with the roadmap to navigate some of those hard conversations, because at the end of the day, some of them are venting, and venting's not a bad thing. I always like to say it's fine if you want to come and you want to, pose a issue or bring up an issue, but there's always a propose, oppose. So if there's something that's wrong, come up with a solution for it. And so I think giving our leadership team the tools to help them navigate those conversations, because they are the ones that people are looking to. In the HR training and development realm, we're the people, right? That's what we're known for. We're the people champions. And so people expect that from us. They expect that level of connectivity from us, but they should be able to expect it from their leadership team as well, too. And they should expect it from their leadership team. They should feel comfortable and confident having those conversations. But I just don't think we do enough. In my experience, we haven't done enough to develop those skill sets. We start off talking about the people component usually earlier on in our careers, and then we just really focus on the technical side of it. Whether it's engineering or whether it's the restaurant industry, we then really focus on the skills that bring in the revenue. And it's somewhere along that line, we forget that people are evolving, people are growing. The workforce that we're working with is changing. What worked for this generation does not necessarily work for this generation. And so we have to figure out a way to continue to embed some of those learnings within here so that way they feel they have the tools to be able to flex their leadership styles, their communication styles, and really their connectivity styles. I think we talk about communication and flexing, how we talk to people quite often, but we also have to talk about how we can flex connecting with others as well too. And so I think it is very important for leaders. I think it does make all the difference in the world. You can have such a phenomenal HR and training and development department within your company, but if the leaders aren't connected, it's only going to go so far. So it really does need to be all hands on deck. I like to say my little people chiefy of my boots on the ground. Who are my boots on the ground? Because I can't be in every room. I can't be in every conversation. We need those champions. We need those people that may not have all of the answers, but at least know where to start. So that way they can help us in those moments where we might just not say anything because we don't know what to do.
Well, and I like that you use the term having all the answers, right? Because the truth is, I don't think anyone has all the answers. It's not possible. And because we live in an age of AI with massive amounts of information and language processing models, we can acquire information at our fingertips so fast. And so I think that is almost like the retirement of the leader as expert, the leader as the one that holds all the answers and all the expertise. And that's no longer the case when it comes to knowledge and information, right? Or even necessarily like past experience, because past experience doesn't play as big of a role when things have changed so dramatically. It doesn't have the same degree of relevance. But what does translate or what does stay is how well a person is able to utilize their human intelligences, the neural networks in their head, in their heart, in their gut, how they navigate their nervous system, how they continue to use that to maximize their impact in the world and in their conversations with other people or in how they treat and interact with other people. That goes on forever. That is something we are always going to need. And I remember when I entered business, like somebody said, maybe this is attributed to someone, but someone told me the quote of, if you have people problems, because business is just filled. Like the hard part is the people. The easy part is the running of the machines, right? Is the mechanics of the business. But then the hard part is how do you train people and get people moving in the same direction and everybody working together and all of those pieces. And so then I think we characterize people as the problem rather than people as the solution. And it's really the people that are going to move the organization forward or move things forward. And so the depth of expertise that our leaders have in that is so important to the success of any business that has a lot of people. It may be different if you're a solopreneur or if you only have a team of 3 to 5, your organization is small. There may not be the same need for the depth of those skills. But in any organization where you are dealing with any substantial number of people, those skills are going to out-trump everything else.
Oh yeah, people work for people. And so yeah, I couldn't agree with that. At the end of the day, there has to be a team. There has to be an army of people that are working for the people. I love the evolution of AI. I know it's still a little controversial out there in the world. But I love it because yes, it gives you a lot of information really quickly, but I think it gives you a lot of perspectives really quickly too that you might not have had before. So I encourage people to leverage that as an opportunity to maybe see something a little bit differently, even before you go into these conversations with your people, because if anything, we're now more equipped in seeing it like that. We have more tools and more resources so quickly at our fingertips to be able to help and to be able to support. And if we can look at it with a different lens as, this is my personal assistant to be able to maybe figure out what's going on or ask some questions that I might not know where to ask, or at least, again, like I said, not knowing where to start, help me have this conversation, figure out where to start so I can continue to grow my toolkit to be a better leader, a better developer of people.
I love that. I'm curious a little bit based on your experience and your kind of life journey and what you've seen and what you've experienced in your career. What do you think are the really important lessons or the really important insights that people need to be aware of and potentially take action on?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think the biggest thing that people can really, really just take with them is there's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be a bump in the road. You look at even the most successful people in the world, something got in their way at some point in time. Now, some of us have quite a bit more bumps in the road than others. And how we navigate them is important, and how we view them is important. And again, we can fall through the cracks and say, oh, okay, I just don't want to do this anymore. Or we can reframe it to being, hey, this is an opportunity that I needed to grow. This bump was put here for a reason. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And if you're in that moment, for some reason, whether it's a learning opportunity for you or whether you're helping somebody else learn. Maybe you're there to help facilitate a learning moment for somebody else. You're there for a reason, and you have to make the most of it. You can take it as a slug on the chin and move forward from it, or you can let it knock you down and you can stay down. But really finding the awareness to say, I am in control of how I respond, how I process this moment. I am in control and what I do with this. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can necessarily help you with that. That's all on you. And so that to me is empowering. I love the ability to say, I can't control everything that happens to me, but I can control how I respond to it, and I can control how I learn from it. And that excites me about challenges and opportunities, because it's one more thing that I could say, hey, you know what? I got through it. I went through it. I got through it. And now I have this information that I can share with somebody else and help them get through it as well.
Yeah. And I think one thing I've become really aware of in recent years is that we actually can't get conscious of our control over our circumstances, our ability to respond rather than react, until we get into a regulated, coherent, balanced nervous system state. And so the first thing I usually advise people is, if you're feeling frustrated with your life or your circumstance or other people, then start with, am I in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn survival state? What's going on in my body? What are the emotions I'm experiencing? What are the sensations that I'm experiencing? What am I drawn to want to do or not do? And that's going to tell you, if you're in one of those states, that's why, right? Like that's why you're stuck. And then if you can regulate, so bring yourself into balance, the fastest way to do that is 2.5 minutes of balanced breathing, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. You bring yourself back into balance, then you can have access to those networks to say, okay, how can I think about this differently? Or how can I reframe this? But until we get out of that state, we can't see the other possibilities. We can't see the other ways of thinking, feeling, or acting in response to the situation. And so what I see a lot in my clients and in what they share with me about their teams is that people are very frequently triggered into survival states, so much so that it's become more of the norm. And so we don't recognize it as easily because we're in it so often that we think that that's actually a normal state, when actually it's an activated state or it's a shutdown state. And so if you aren't aware of what those states are and what they look like and how to identify when you're in one, I think that's really important to then being able to get access to the skill sets you're talking about, to be able to use those next, right? To get back to a place of balance and know when you're not in a place of balance.
And that's a really tough place to be in, because for me, I've been a functional fighter for the majority of my life. I've never really, probably until I reached my 30s, unfortunately, had the opportunity to slow down enough to realize, to say, hey, you know what, I'm tired, or I'm hurting, or this isn't okay. Like, I'm really good at doing a lot of different things and getting it done, but at what cost? And unfortunately, usually it takes some like bone crushing moment in life where like stops you on a dime, either health issues or, you just hit this brick wall where it requires you to stop and actually think and say, hey, you know what? This actually isn't working for me. It might seem like that on the outside, but it's not. And I've had several of those moments throughout my career. And I think that's okay. And I think it's okay to tell people, like, growing up the way that I did, we didn't really have a choice. You either had to do or nothing was going to happen for you. So we had to continue to fight. We had to continue to push. You couldn't complain because there was really nobody to complain to. Like, it was all up to you and the weight fell on your shoulders. It is okay, especially later on in life, to get to that point where you say, you know what, this weight is a little heavy. I'm going to sit it down for a little bit. And then I'm only going to pick back up the stuff that serves me. And like I said, I've had that moment several times in life. I know some really amazing people who I'm blessed to call chosen family who have had those opportunities as well. And I think it's important, taking it back to work, for leaders to understand that we have to give people those moments to just sit down and say, I'm tired. And it's okay to be tired. We said we're all so busy. Life is lifing, whether we like it or not. Things are happening out there to us. With us, and we have to provide those moments of just take a deep breath and just be in the moment and figure out how you truly feel, because you're never going to grow to your true potential. Again, I was guilty of this. We recently just took a family vacation where I just had a couple of days where I was just able to sit and be with myself. And in those moments, I was able to slow down enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm tired. And it's okay to be not okay. I know that sounds so cliche to say all too often, but it's okay to not be okay. Not everybody is okay. Some of us just put on a really good mask from day to day. But when you can get to that point of, this something needs to change, that's what really started opening the doors for me to look at the things that I was experiencing, the things that people around me were experiencing, to have that context of saying, you know what, we have a couple different ways we can look at this. We could add it to the back, or we could do something. We can build something with it that we don't have to carry around.
And you mentioned like the survival states and that you had to do things a certain way. And I like to say, like, survival states were there for a reason. They were there to help you survive. And so when we were little and we developed certain survival states throughout our lives, throughout our childhood, they were there for a reason, and we did need them, and they were adaptive, and they were totally probably necessary to our journey and to the path that we were on. And also, we don't have to keep them. I always like to joke, if my kids are screaming and it's causing a massive reaction internally to me, why, right? Like, what is the disproportionate response? Is my reaction, if I'm in survival, truly because I'm in a survival situation or not? Most of the time in our lives, for most people, I won't say everybody, because certainly there are people that are in survival situations. But for those of us that aren't, that have a roof over our head, have food, have a bed to sleep in at night, like we have people we can call if we really need them, we are not actually in survival. But our bodies go into that as if our life is at risk, right? And they don't know the difference. And so that's where having leaders learn about when they're triggered into survival states and how to shift them both for themselves and their teams. Because you're not going to have a productive conversation if someone is in a fight response. If I come to you and I trigger your fight response, your brain doesn't care what I have to say anymore. It just wants to fight me off and protect itself. And so that learning is something that I think is probably some of the most powerful, at least I've seen that in my clients, the powerful practices that can really change people's performance, both of the leader and their teams.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot of work to get there. I think that's the biggest challenge, is everybody sees that this is a long path to get to this point of learning and development. But it's needed. It's required almost. We're never going to get to our true potential, whether as individuals or as professionals or as businesses, without that investment in our people. And by investing in the people, it's investing in the leadership team.
Well, and I like to say, we're not computers. You can't upload new files and install new programs, right? Like, you can't do those in an instant. And so it requires that micro progression, that micro learning, and those mini moments that rewire things. And I think in a world where we have such ability to transform things so quickly, it feels like it takes too long. But actually, what I see is when we practice and have the right practices in place, it doesn't take that long to rewire. If you get rid of the block or the thing that's triggering you, the thing that's shifting you into those states, then the ability to rewire a different way of handling or a new skill set is so much easier. And so if you can shift people into that state, they really learn the capabilities quickly, because that's how we're wired as humans, right? We're neuroplastic. We keep growing and evolving and changing throughout our lives. And so we're supposed to do it that way. Like, we're supposed to keep changing. And in our natural state, we will, if we can get our bodies to stop going into survival. Well, I think you and I could probably go on for a really long time. I love this topic and this conversation. I want to give you a chance to give any kind of final thoughts or insights that you want to share with our listeners around this topic, or kind of just in general.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you too for doing the work that you're doing, because I think it's so important just to talk and just to have conversations about some of the things that are challenging and some of the things that we're experiencing. So that way everybody knows it's okay. Because I'm sure, there's somebody out there who's feeling the same way, needing some different perspective. And if you take away anything from this conversation, it's just the ability to look at the things that you're being presented with a little bit differently. And even if it's the next big challenge that you go through, just taking the time to say, okay, what is the lesson here? What is the learning moment here? How can I turn this into a positive? Because not every bump is a derailing bump, even though it might feel that way sometimes. So taking it one day at a time, one stressor at a time, start chiseling away. You're going to start seeing that pathway, and that journey is going to be a little bit smoother. But yeah, thank you again just for taking the time to have me. It's always great to connect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki, so much. I think this topic is so important and so relevant in a world that is constantly changing. We are always talking about it. And to know, I think that there are options and choices for what we can do differently. That there are pathways to greater peace, greater performance, greater prosperity that don't require us to suffer and be in perpetual states of survival and struggle. And I think if we can learn the skill sets and develop the capacity that we need to have this level of resilience, to be able to adapt, to be able to recover, to be able to grow from our experiences, then we're going to be able to do more as human beings. We're going to be able to use more of our neural networks and our capacity that we have within us if we're not perpetually in triggered and survival states. So I think what you'll find as leaders is, if you invest in this for yourself and your teams, that your people will get back more capacity. They'll actually be able to do more and to do it with more ease if they're not perpetually in a state of survival. So I encourage all of my listeners to just remember to always keep growing, keep evolving, keep rewiring your neural pathways so that you can live your best life, an exceptional life. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be back again next week with another